Good morning, everyone. It's a little windy right now, just technically picked up. Not sure where that came from. It's out here doing some watering, checking on the plants. Also, doing a little bit of pruning. I just use regular scissors. I don't know if you saw them. They're literally just your standard, like fabric scissors. One of these days I'll get some good clippers. Most of the time, I'll actually use my kitchen scissors, just because they do really well. But feeling a little lazy this morning and just grabbed the first pair I saw, and it was the little fabric scissors. And guess what? They work just fine. One thing with the basil, while I'm thinking about it, a little tangent here. When you are pruning, what I have found, and I read this online too, so I started doing this. When you're pruning, you look for, basically you start from the top. So like, for example, if you're flowering, obviously you're going to start from there and kind of work your way down. And you'll see, let me see if I can show you here. You start from here. Let's find a good one that I haven't pruned already. It's like this one here. So if I was to go down, see how this kind of, see that because this one's in the way. Maybe I can use this one. There we go. So if you follow the stem down, see how it kind of makes a Y right here? You have these two little branches that kind of pop off. You want to clip it right above those two little offshoots there. You can see I did that with this one here. That's where I clipped it off. And what'll happen is these two will still continue and they'll branch off and make their own stems as well. Now the reason you want to go all the way down to that Y, and I mean as close as you can, but still leave the other two, is the stem that you cut off will kind of die back a little bit. Well, if you leave too much of that, you're just going to have this dead stem, and that can affect the plant in the long run. So you want to get find your Y, get as close down, leave the two offshoots, and just kind of prune it down to there. It seems to work really well. Also kind of helps it bush out a bit. Also, my little bean plant here. So we moved a couple of things around here yesterday. So this bean plant here was at the end of this row. And what was funny was I kept waiting for little tendrils to kind of form, because I'm like, I'm pretty sure this bean is supposed to be a little on the viney side. But it was just this little bush it was kind of turning into, and it started forming the beans and whatnot. It started actually forming the tendrils, and it was trying to latch on to the pole here. So we went ahead and moved it. I'll show you here. And most of that, minus the big one, I just moved that big one this morning while I was walking through here. The rest of these little tendrils, though, latched on overnight. So this thing's, I think, going to start trying to climb up here. So that'll be interesting. Plus, it's already forming bean pods, which I'm quite happy about. So got that going. I guess I ought to get back to watering while I'm over here. So yesterday, I'd mentioned something about ants, not knowing whether or not they were going to be disruptive to my plants or not. And come to find out, it's kind of a give and take. Ants in general are not necessarily bad for your garden. As it turns out, they are actually, like bees, pollinators. On top of that, because of how they dig through the dirt and whatnot, they also add aeration to your soil, and of course they add organic matter to your soil. So with that being said, that part of having ants in your garden is not a bad thing. Now, there are some bad things about ants, and you don't want them to just run rampant. One of the big things is ants multiply quickly. They also bite, especially if you got a bad case of fire ants. Luckily, we haven't had those just yet. But even the little black ants and whatnot, they bite. They ain't fun. And they can actually get into your fruits and vegetables, especially if there's any kind of disruption on them. If they get an entry point, they'll destroy them. They'll eat them. So what you want to do, apparently, is keep them controlled. Having ants isn't bad. They pollinate. They add stuff to the soil. So having ants, good. Having too many ants, bad. So, with that being said, I ain't going to be too terribly worried about seeing ants back in here. I'm just going to be watching the amount. Let's make sure we don't have too many. So I was kind of glad to have seen that I read multiple posts online. I should have Googled it, finally. So, good to know. I'm probably going to wash off some of the powder on some of these plants. I might do that this evening. The ones that don't seem to be really suffering too much anymore, because that diatomaceous earth, it does a good job, and it does it relatively quickly. But I don't want to leave it on here too long, because we do have bees that come around. And again, like I just said about the ants, we don't want to drive them away. So I don't want to leave this too long. So I'm going to be probably hosing a lot of that off. Now, diatomaceous earth, from my understanding, is not necessarily bad for your soil, so it's okay if it gets down into the dirt there. I've got a lot of it on the dirt anyway. I'll probably leave it on the cucumbers. That was what was actually getting eaten up the most. So it'll probably be just pretty much everything else that had a little bit of damage, but not too much. Now, ever since I put up the shading, the cucumber plants are starting to look better. So part of the issue, I think, was the fact that they were just getting roasted out here under the sun, under the late day sun. Most of what I got out here seems to do better with like the early daylight, but not so much with the late afternoon sun. So again, this is all just kind of experimental, just trying to find out what works and what doesn't. Let's get back the water in here. Now, some of my other plants, I got my watermelon. I did move my other little cantaloupe over to this trellis here, and I'm going to be putting some support up on that. I still have some more rebar that I'm going to drive into the ground with my T-post driver. That's what I did with these ones over here. And that's just to give it some more stability. So I'll do that with this over here, because my cantaloupe's pretty much tall enough to where I can start latching it onto the trellis. So as you can see, I just put it up there. That's all I did with these ones over here. And the little tendrils and whatnot, they will latch on and it'll just start growing just like this other one over here. So like I'm saying, I'll put in the rebar. That'll give it some more support. And yeah, I'll just drive those in. I might even do that later today. Now at some point, we do have a larger trellis. Basically, it's just cattle panel that we picked up. We found it on Facebook Marketplace. Actually, I have a couple of them. I have a small one, and then I actually have a big one that I thought about doing an arch trellis with. I'm still not quite 100% sure. I do know I'll be using it for these melons over here. I think we're just going to do just a straight line like we've done all the rest of them. And I'll do that in the back line over here. And yeah, that'll be for these watermelon plants, the little ones that I've got going on here. And it's considerably stronger than what I'm using now, because these are just like little 14 gauge. I'm not sure what the gauge is on that, but it's considerably larger. So that'll be able to withstand even more weight. I probably won't even have to put any additional support into that one. So that'll be soon, because we got to get a couple more T-posts for that one. We're not going to just use the rebar. So I might actually start looking on stuff like Facebook Marketplace, offer up stuff like that. See if anybody's got any T-posts. The ones I'm using now are 8 foot, and so I think I'd like to try to keep that uniform. So I'll be looking for 8 foot T-posts. But if I can find anybody who's got some that either they're just trying to get rid of them, or maybe they're trying to sell them cheaper than I can get them at, like the Tractor Supply and whatnot, I'll probably go that route. Again, if I don't find anything in the next couple of weeks, I'll just go pick some up. But I figure I've got a little bit of time, so I might as well see if I can find a deal on it. Because anytime you can do something cheap, well, then do it cheap. And that's about it for today. Just wanted to do a little quick update. Let y'all know that I did find out the information on the ants. Something I actually should have been looking at early on. There's a few things. There's a lot of stuff that I probably should have looked up early on, but didn't. And you know what? That's all right. That's just part of the learning experience. I've said it before. I'll say it again. I'm not the end-all, be-all. I'm still just a first-year gardener. I'm just bringing you all along on my little journey here. So with that being said, thank you. Again, if you haven't already, be sure to like and subscribe. It really helps out the channel. Hit that notification bell if you're interested in seeing more content. If you like listening to all the traffic go by, be sure to hit up another video, because it's kind of non-stop around here. So, and I guess that'll do it for us. We'll see you on the next one.